A flawless mirror crafted over 10,000 years ago defies everything we know about ancient technology. These obsidian mirrors were created by prehistoric cultures without a single metal tool, yet they achieved a perfection that seems impossible. One archaeologist observed that in these black glass surfaces, we see not just our own reflections, but the brilliant minds of our ancient ancestors. By the end of this story, you will understand the incredible secret of how Stone Age artisans mastered light and reflection. We will uncover how a piece of volcanic glass was transformed through painstaking skill, and why these objects were far more than simple mirrors. How did they polish stone to such a high gloss, and what hidden power did these dark surfaces hold in ritual and ceremony? What does our own drive to create perfection reveal about us today deep beneath the earth? Immense pressure builds until the planet itself cracks open. A river of superheated rock magma forces its way to the surface, meeting the shock of cold water or air. In that explosive instant, it solidifies not into a grainy stone, but into a glossy, black glass we call obsidian. This is not a slow geological process. It is a violent, rapid birth that creates a material of stunning contradiction, both brutally sharp and capable of breathtaking beauty. The secret of the mirrors lies locked within this volcanic origin. Unlike crystalline rocks that fracture unevenly, obsidian possesses a homogeneous, amorphous structure. Think of it like a piece of hard candy compared to a sugar cube. The candy, like obsidian, is a single, continuous solid, allowing it to break in smooth, curved shells, a property geologists call a conchoidal fracture. This is what gives obsidian its razor-sharp edges for tools, and crucially, its potential to be shaped and polished into a perfectly flat, reflective surface. The chemical composition is equally vital. Primarily made of silicon dioxide, the same building block as quartz and window glass, obsidian contains trace elements like iron and magnesium that give it that deep, iconic black color. Geologists note that this specific makeup creates a vitreous luster, an inherent glassy shine that is the starting point for a mirror. But how did prehistoric people without modern geology recognize this potential? They became master prospectors, identifying the best volcanic regions from the highlands of Anatolia to the mountains of Mesoamerica and the Pacific Northwest. They sought out the finest nodules of obsidian, often traveling incredible distances to quarry it. In places like the Ethiopian highlands, we find ancient pits where early humans selectively mined the most flawless black glass. They were not just collecting rock, they were curating a raw material with a specific destiny. Can you picture them testing different pieces, turning a shard in the sunlight, searching for that one fragment with the deepest, clearest inherent shine? The journey of the mirror began not in a workshop, but in the fiery heart of a volcano, with a material begging to be unlocked. A sharp crack echoes through the quiet air as a stone hammer meets a dark volcanic core. This is the first, most dangerous step in the mirror's creation, the moment of percussion flaking. An artisan holding the obsidian nodule steady strikes with calculated force, detaching a large, flat flake. This is not random bashing. It is a precise operation to create what is known as a mirror blank, a rough disk that holds the future reflection within its form. The technique relies on an intimate, almost intuitive understanding of the stone's hidden weaknesses. The craftsperson must read the obsidian like a map, identifying its natural cleavage planes and internal stresses. Striking at the wrong angle or with too much force does not simply create a bad shape. it causes the entire piece to explode into 1,000 useless shards. Experimental archaeologists who try to replicate this process today find it is a skill born of immense patience and repeated failure. They use hammerstones of basalt, billets of dense antler, and stone anvils to steady the work. A soft hammer technique using the more forgiving antler allows for finer control, transmitting a shock wave through the stone that pops off a flake without transmitting destructive energy into the core itself. You can almost see the artisan's focus, the careful selection of the initial nodule, the searching for the perfect strike point. Every movement is a negotiation with the brittle glass. They likely worked in designated areas, well away from living spaces, a necessary safety measure when dealing with flying, razor-sharp fragments. At sites in ancient Turkey, we find these discarded rough outs, all showing a remarkably consistent size and shape. This was not a haphazard art, it was a standardized method passed down through generations. How many blanks were shattered before one was perfected? How many hands were cut in the learning of this craft? This risky, percussive dance was the essential foundation, the act of revealing a hidden form from the raw stone, setting the stage for the next, even more delicate phase of the work. The percussive violence of the first shaping gives way to an art of quiet, sustained pressure. Now the artisan grips a sharpened antler tine, pressing its tip firmly against the obsidian blank's edge. With a steady, controlled force, a tiny, shimmering flake no larger than a fingernail snaps away. This is pressure flaking, the meticulous second act in the mirror's creation. Where percussion revealed the mirror's rough form, pressure flaking refines its very soul. Each deliberate push thins the disc, smoothing the jagged ridges left by the hammerstones and correcting minute imperfections in the curve. Lithic specialists explain that this method provides an almost surgical level of control, allowing the craftsperson to steer the shape toward perfect symmetry. The tools themselves are extensions of the body, crafted from bone, hard wood, or the most prized material, deer antler, which offers a perfect blend of resilience and a slight give that grips the stone without shattering it. The artisan's entire posture becomes part of the process. They might brace the obsidian blank against a leather-padded thigh or steady it on a wooden anvil, applying pressure with the tine in a series of short, precise movements that travel along the entire circumference. The angle of the tool is everything. A steep angle removes small, corrective chips, while a shallow, sweeping pressure can detach long, thinning flakes that travel across the face of the mirror, dramatically reducing its thickness and weight. At ancient sites like Teotihuacan in Mesoamerica, we find these unfinished mirrors, their edges covered in the telltale scalloped patterns of pressure flaking. They are frozen moments in the crafting process, showing how an artisan worked their way around the disc, removing material millimeter by millimeter. How many years of practice did it take to develop the feel for this, to know exactly how much pressure would detach a flake without snapping the entire piece in two? How did a master train an apprentice, guiding their young hands to apply just enough force, passing down a tactile knowledge that has long since turned to dust? This painstaking refinement, this dance of pressure and release, was what transformed a rough stone blank into an object that was now ready for its final, most transformative stage. The final and most demanding stage begins with a steady, rhythmic motion, the sound of stone grinding against stone. With the obsidian blank now shaped, the artisan must erase every last trace of its violent birth. This is grinding and polishing, a process of immense patience where the mirror's surface is transformed from a rough, matte texture into a deep, liquid gloss. The craftsperson places the obsidian disc against a coarse sandstone slab, sprinkling it with water and a gritty sand abrasive. back and forth for hours that stretch into days. They work, using the friction to slowly, methodically wear down the microscopic peaks and valleys left by the flaking tools. This is the most time-consuming part of the entire creation, a test of endurance as much as skill. Materials scientists who study these surfaces explain that the goal is to systematically reduce light scattering. Every tiny scratch on the obsidian acts like a jagged cliff face, diffusing light in all directions. Polishing smooths these cliffs into gentle, rolling hills and eventually into a flat, featureless plain. When light hits this perfected surface, it is not broken apart, but instead bounces back in a single, coherent beam, creating the clear reflection we see. The process was a masterclass in graduated refinement. They would begin with coarse, crushed quartz to erase the deep scars from flaking. Then, they would progress to finer and finer powders, perhaps made from crushed clay or even the ash of certain plants, each grade removing the scratches left by the previous, more abrasive material. Often, these powders were mixed with water or animal fats to create a smooth slurry that spread evenly and prevented the delicate obsidian from overheating and cracking. Tools evolved for this purpose as well. Instead of holding the stone directly, the artisan might fix it to a wooden handle or press it against a leather pad, allowing for more consistent pressure and control. For larger mirrors, some cultures may have even developed a form of rotary motion, spinning the obsidian against a stationary abrasive stone to speed up the otherwise agonizingly slow process. The famous Olmec mirrors from ancient Mexico are a testament to this profound knowledge. Despite being thousands of years old, their surfaces still retain a phenomenal polish, a black so deep and flawless it seems to swallow the light. You have to wonder about the human context of this labor. Was this solitary, meditative work, or was it a social activity? Did a group sit together, polishing their mirrors while sharing stories and knowledge, the rhythmic sound a backdrop to the life of the community? This meticulous final touch was the key that unlocked the obsidian's secret, turning a piece of black volcanic glass into a window to another world. The quiet rhythm of grinding stone is transformed by the gentle splash of water. This simple, abundant resource was not just a convenience, it was a technological breakthrough that pushed the polishing process from difficult to divine. Water played a dual role, acting as both a protector and a precision tool. As a coolant, it was absolutely essential, preventing the friction of polishing from generating destructive heat. Obsidian, being a glass, is highly susceptible to thermal shock, a sudden temperature change that can cause it to fracture internally. A single moment of excessive heat could undo hundreds of hours of meticulous work, shattering the mirror blank into worthless fragments. But water also served as a carrier, creating a slurry when mixed with fine abrasive sands. This mixture allowed the tiny, sharp particles to float and move freely across the obsidian surface, creating a much more even and controlled abrasion than was possible with dry sand alone. Ethnographic studies of traditional stone-working communities from Papua New Guinea to the American Southwest consistently show that water-based polishing produces a significantly finer, more lustrous finish. The water itself does the work of washing away the microscopic debris generated by the grinding, ensuring that the abrasive particles are always working on a fresh, clean surface rather than just pushing around the waste material, which would create new scratches. Where did these ancient artisans do this work? They likely sought out specific locations, not just any stream or pond. A slow-moving river with a fine, sandy bed would have been an ideal natural workshop. The current would continuously bring fresh water and suspended abrasive particles to the work, while also carrying away the used slurry. Some cultures may have constructed simple troughs or basins, filling them with water and their own carefully prepared mixtures of crushed minerals to achieve a specific grade of polish. Along the Pacific Northwest coast, indigenous groups are known to have polished slate and obsidian using the tidal zones. They would work their pieces against sandbars at low tide, using the rhythmic return of the seawater to constantly refresh their polishing medium. This was not a random activity, it was a profound application of environmental knowledge. How many generations of observation did it take to learn that a particular bend in the river, with its unique blend of silt and minerals, produced the finest possible finish? The strategic use of water elevated the craft, turning a laborious task into a refined science and bringing the obsidian one step closer to its impossible perfection. The crackle of a low, controlled fire marks a potential turning point in the mirror's creation. While the rhythmic work of grinding and polishing was essential, some archaeologists propose a secret step, a hidden application of heat that transformed the obsidian itself. This theory of thermal alteration suggests that before a single flake was struck, the raw obsidian blank might have been slowly baked in an earth oven or buried in hot ashes. The goal was not to melt the glass, but to gently coax its internal structure into a more cooperative state. Think of it like tempering chocolate, a precise application of heat that changes its crystalline form, making it less brittle and more stable. For obsidian, this process could have reduced internal stresses locked in from its volcanic birth, making it significantly less likely to shatter during the delicate stages of pressure, flaking, and grinding. Evidence for this practice, while more common for tool making, has been found at sites across the globe. In the American West, for instance, analysis of projectile points shows they were often heat-treated to improve their flaking quality. The temperatures required were remarkably specific, typically between 300 and 500 degrees Celsius. This is a crucial window, hot enough to alter the stone's microscopic water content and relieve strain, but not so hot as to cause devitrification, where the glass begins to crystallize and become milky and weak. Mastering this required a sophisticated understanding of pyrotechnology. The heating and, just as importantly, the cooling had to be incredibly slow, often over many hours or even days. A sudden draft of cold air or removing the stone too quickly would cause thermal shock, creating a spiderweb of internal fractures and ruining the piece. This was not a simple campfire, it was a carefully managed thermal environment. Experimental studies show that properly heated obsidian behaves differently under the tool, flaking more predictably and with a greasier feel, allowing for finer, more controlled work. Could this have been a guarded secret among master artisans, a technique passed down selectively within families or guilds? The use of fire in this way adds a profound new layer to their technological prowess. It suggests they were not just shaping stone, they were actively manipulating its very properties, using one of humanity's oldest tools to unlock a new level of perfection in their quest for the flawless mirror. A freshly broken edge of obsidian catches the light, and for a fleeting moment, a distorted face stares back from the black glass. This was likely the first spark, an accidental glimpse of self seen not in water but in stone. Cognitive archaeologists propose that this moment was a cognitive revolution. Early humans already knew their reflections from still pools, but here was something different, a reflection that was solid, that could be held, owned, and carried. The discovery probably happened during the most mundane of tasks, knapping a stone tool. An artisan focused on shaping a sharp edge would have seen their own face flicker in a newly flaked surface, a silent, unexpected encounter. This was not a passive observation like seeing yourself in a pond. This was a reflection they had actively created with their own hands, a profound merging of craft and identity. The realization would have been gradual, then intentional. they began to understand that the smoother the surface, the clearer and more stable the image became. A rough flake showed a broken, wavering ghost, but a carefully polished plane could hold a face with startling clarity. This drove experimentation, a deliberate effort to enhance what nature had revealed. The knowledge of this special property did not stay in one place. Obsidian mirrors have been found hundreds of miles from the volcanic sources where the glass was quarried. This suggests that the objects and the revolutionary idea they contained traveled along ancient trade routes. A mirror was not just a tool, it was a concept passed from hand to hand, from culture to culture, its value immense. Ancient myths from across the world hint at the powerful symbolism these objects held from the very beginning. In Mesopotamia, mirrors were linked to divination, seen as portals to see the future or communicate with gods. In the Americas, they were tied to self-awareness and shamanic journeys, a tool to look beyond the visible world. Was it a single, brilliant innovator who first grasped the potential? Or was it a slow, collective dawning across generations, with countless artisans noticing the same phenomenon in their workshops? However it happened, that initial recognition that a piece of the earth could capture a human image was the spark that ignited a technological and spiritual fire, setting our ancestors on a deliberate path to create perfection from volcanic glass. The final, flawless surface of the obsidian mirror was never meant for vanity. In the flickering torchlight of a sacred cave, a shaman holds the dark disk, their breath still. The world they see reflected is not their own face, but a swirling, black portal into the spirit realm. This was the true purpose of these impossible creations, to act as a conduit between the physical world and the world of gods, ancestors, and hidden truths. Anthropologists who study these objects explain that in cultures like the Olmec and the Maya, a mirror was not a simple possession, it was an instrument of power. Rulers and priests used them for scrying, a form of divination where they would gaze into the depths, searching for visions that could predict the outcome of a battle, divine the will of the gods, or diagnose the spiritual cause of an illness. The mirror's perfection was essential, for any flaw or cloudiness in the glass was believed to distort the message from the other side, leading to catastrophic misunderstandings. These objects were so central to authority that they were frequently buried with elites, a final tool for the journey into the afterlife. In ancient China, though they used polished bronze, the concept was strikingly similar. Shang dynasty mirrors were placed in tombs to protect the dead and guide their souls, their reflective surfaces thought to ward off malevolent spirits. The mirror was a two-way street. It was not just a window to look through, but a door that could be opened. Some traditions held that a mirror could capture a person's soul or life force, which is why they were covered or turned away during certain rituals, to prevent a malevolent entity from stepping through. In healing ceremonies, a healer might use the mirror to reflect evil influences away from a sick person, literally bouncing the spiritual sickness back into the void. Can you fathom the sheer awe that such an object would inspire in a community where this black glass was the only large, clear reflection anyone had ever seen? Your own face, captured in a piece of the earth, was already magic. To then be told that this surface could also show you the face of a god or the path of a departed soul, that was a power beyond measure. This profound cultural meaning, this role as a bridge between worlds, is the ultimate reason why prehistoric artisans drove themselves to such extremes of skill. A slightly cloudy reflection might be acceptable for checking your appearance, but when the fate of your entire community rests on reading a clear message from the divine, only absolute perfection would do. A flawless obsidian mirror holds a paradox in its very nature. Its surface captures light, yet its body is forged from absolute darkness. This duality was not lost on ancient cultures, who saw in these objects a profound representation of the universe itself, a balance between the seen and unseen, the known and the mysterious. Historians of religion point out that in many ancient cosmologies, the mirror's dark base was linked to the earth, the underworld, and the deep well of ancestral wisdom. It was the substance of creation and the realm of the dead. The reflection, that sudden burst of light and image, symbolized consciousness, the soul, and the divine spark. The mirror was a single object that contained both ends of existence. In Mesoamerican traditions, this concept was central. Rulers used mirrors not just for scrying, but as astronomical tools. They could capture the reflection of the sun, the moon, or specific stars, effectively bringing the heavens down to earth to be studied and consulted. This act physically demonstrated their belief that the mirror was a point of contact between the celestial and the terrestrial realms. We see echoes of this symbolic power in other ancient civilizations. In Egypt, polished obsidian was occasionally used for the eye inlays of sacred statues. These dark, reflective orbs were not meant to be mere decoration. They were believed to hold the actual spirit and sight of the deity, allowing the statue to see and be seen by the divine. The very shape of many mirrors reinforced this cosmic symbolism. The circular form, with no beginning and no end, represented the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth, the endless dance of light and shadow. Why did these cultures pour such immense effort into creating a perfect surface, only to value its darkness as much as its light? The answer lies in their holistic worldview. The mirror's perfection was necessary because it had to be a flawless conduit. Any scratch or cloudiness would not just blur a reflection, it would disrupt the sacred balance between worlds, muddying the message from the ancestors or distorting the image of a star. The darkness of the obsidian was not an empty void. It was a fertile, potent space where truths were hidden, waiting for the light of a seeking consciousness to reveal them. A single obsidian mirror could travel farther in its lifetime than its maker ever would. From the volcanic highlands of central Mexico, these precious objects journeyed north along intricate trade routes, passed from hand to hand until they reached the arid pueblos of the American Southwest, a distance of over 1,000 miles. The existence of these far-flung mirrors points to a hidden superhighway of the ancient world, a web of exchange that connected distant cultures through shared materials and ideas. The key to understanding this network lies in the obsidian itself. Volcanic glass acts like a geological fingerprint, with each source or quarry possessing a unique chemical signature defined by its specific mix of trace elements. Archaeologists use a technique called X-ray fluorescence to read this signature. By analyzing a mirror found in, say, a burial mound in Ohio, they can match its chemical makeup to a specific volcano in Wyoming, precisely tracing its journey across the continent. These trade routes were the internet of their day, carrying not just goods but knowledge. A mirror crafted in Anatolia and traded into Mesopotamia would have been a stunning novelty. Local artisans would have studied its form, its polish, and its function. They might not have had access to the same perfect black obsidian, but they would have adapted the concept, perhaps using locally available basalt or even polishing jet to create their own versions of the magical dark surface. This cross-pollination of ideas accelerated innovation. Imagine an artisan in one region seeing a new, more efficient polishing technique on a traded mirror and combining it with their own methods, creating something even better. Alongside mirrors, these routes carried other treasures. A single trade packet might include seashells from a distant coast, bright parrot feathers from a rainforest, cakes of salt, or rare pigments. These exchanges were about more than economics. They forged social and political alliances. A chief might gift a powerful obsidian mirror to a neighboring leader, sealing a pact. The mirror was not just a commodity, it was a token of connection, a piece of one culture's spiritual technology being integrated into another. In the Mediterranean, obsidian from the island of Milos was found in Neolithic settlements on mainland Greece, proving that even in very ancient times, people were venturing across the sea for this prized material. This widespread distribution forces us to rethink ancient societies. They were not isolated villages, but nodes in a vast, interconnected system. The universal human drive to possess and understand these dark, reflective surfaces helped weave that network together, proving that the value of a perfect reflection was a currency everyone understood. The creation of an obsidian mirror was not a casual pastime. It was the life's work of a specialized artisan, a person whose hands held generations of accumulated knowledge. Within a dedicated workshop, perhaps a simple stone shelter with good light, a single craftsperson might spend months coaxing a flawless surface from a piece of volcanic glass. This was not a skill one learned in a week. It required a full-time commitment and a long, careful apprenticeship. The complexity of the process, from selecting the perfect obsidian nodule to the final, agonizingly slow polish, meant that mirror making was a profession, likely passed down within families or tightly knit guilds. Modern flintknappers who attempt to replicate these objects confirm the immense difficulty. Achieving that perfect curvature and high gloss without modern tools is a feat that demands thousands of hours of practice, a deep, almost intuitive feel for the material, and a vast mental library of techniques. These master crafters were not just laborers, they were the engineers and artists of their time. Their status would have been high, their skills valued as much as those of a warrior or a shaman, for they produced objects of immense spiritual and political power. The training of an apprentice would have been a slow, meticulous process. It likely began with the most basic tasks, gathering raw materials and learning to identify the telltale signs of a flawless piece of obsidian, free from internal bubbles or fractures. Then came the long practice of percussion flaking, starting with less valuable stone to learn the precise angles and forces required to detach a usable blank without shattering it. Under the watchful eye of the master, the apprentice would progress to pressure flaking, spending years developing the muscle memory and delicate touch needed to thin the disc. Each stage was a lesson in patience and precision, a gradual accumulation of the tactile wisdom that defined the craft. We see evidence of this specialization in the archaeological record. At sites in ancient Anatolia, archaeologists uncover distinct workshop areas, marked by dense concentrations of obsidian debris, from large, crude flakes to the tiny, shimmering waste of pressure flaking. These are not random scatters of trash, they are the footprints of intensive, focused production. Sometimes we even find the artisan's personal toolkit, a collection of carefully shaped antler billets, fine pressure flakers, and polishing stones worn smooth from use. These were not communal tools, they were personal possessions customized to the artisan's hand, representing a significant investment in their craft. One can only wonder at the quiet innovations these experts must have developed. Did they create simple jigs or wooden guides to hold the mirror blank at a consistent angle during polishing, ensuring a perfect, even curve? Did they experiment with different types of leather pads or abrasive slurries to find the perfect combination for a flawless finish? The impossible perfection of the mirrors we find today is a direct result of this human dedication, a testament to the unnamed artisans who turned a dark volcanic glass into a window to the cosmos. A modern flintknapper's hands are a map of small, white scars, each one a lesson learned from the stone. In laboratories and workshops around the world, experimental archaeologists like Dr. John Whitaker are rediscovering the ancient art of the obsidian mirror by doing it themselves. They start with a raw nodule of volcanic glass and a toolkit limited to what was available thousands of years ago: stone hammers, antler tines, and slabs of sandstone. Their goal is not just to make a replica, but to live the process, to feel the same frustrations and small triumphs as a prehistoric artisan. The first lesson is always one of humility. A single miscalculated strike with a hammerstone can shatter weeks of work in an instant. These modern practitioners document a staggeringly high breakage rate, especially during the delicate thinning phase. When a blank that represents dozens of hours of labor explodes into fragments, the value of every complete mirror that survived prehistory suddenly becomes crystal clear. This hands-on research reveals the immense time investment. From quarrying to final polish, creating a single, high-quality mirror requires dozens, if not hundreds, of hours of focused work. This was not a side project, it was a monumental dedication of skilled labor. Researchers run controlled experiments to test ancient methods, comparing different polishing abrasives. They find that a slurry of fine wood ash and water, applied with a soft leather pad, can produce a surface with near-modern clarity, a finish that feels impossibly smooth and reflects a surprisingly sharp image. The choice of leather is crucial. Its flexibility allows it to conform to the mirror's curve, ensuring an even polish across the entire surface. Some experiments explore the effects of heat treatment, slowly baking the raw obsidian in a pit oven to see if it becomes less brittle and easier to work. The results are nuanced, requiring a precise temperature control that itself would have been a hard-won secret. University students attempting to recreate famous Olmec mirrors often find their own results crude and cloudy in comparison, a humbling testament to the gap between modern understanding and ancient, embodied skill. What does this struggle teach us about the prehistoric mind? It reveals a culture that valued long-term goals over immediate results, that cultivated profound patience and celebrated meticulous problem-solving. Each successful mirror was not just an object, it was a victory over the stubborn nature of the earth itself, a testament to a human will that refused to be broken by the fragility of glass. Light strikes the obsidian surface, and in that instant, a delicate optical dance begins. A portion of the light, perhaps 70%, is swallowed by the deep, dark glass, absorbed into its black heart. The rest, a smaller but crucial fraction, bounces directly back, carrying the image of the world with it. This is the principle of specular reflection, a phenomenon prehistoric artisans mastered without ever knowing its name. The secret to the obsidian mirror's power lies in its vitreous or glassy nature. When polished to an impossible smoothness, its surface becomes a flat, featureless plane at a microscopic level. This perfection minimizes diffuse scattering, the chaotic bouncing of light in all directions that creates a blurry, matte appearance, and instead channels the light into a single, coherent beam that creates a clear image. A modern physicist would explain that obsidian has a relatively low reflectance. Only about 20 to 30% of the light that hits it comes back, compared to over 95% for a modern silvered glass mirror. Yet, this apparent weakness was its greatest strength. The dark background of the obsidian acts like the perfect cinema screen, creating a high-contrast image where the reflected details stand out with startling clarity against the deep black void. This is why your own face seems to float in the darkness, sharp and defined. The quality of the reflection is entirely dependent on two factors achieved through sheer human effort: surface flatness and polish. Any microscopic curvature or scratch distorts the light rays, warping the image like a funhouse mirror. The prehistoric crafters, through their painstaking grinding and polishing, were intuitively creating an optical surface of remarkable precision, achieving a flatness that minimized distortion through handwork alone. They also understood the viewing environment. Using the mirror in dim, controlled light, such as inside a temple or a cave, would eliminate glare from the sun or a bright fire, allowing the user to see the reflection with maximum clarity and intensity. Compare this to a bronze mirror from the same era. While initially very reflective, bronze quickly tarnishes, its surface clouding with a greenish patina that scatters light and muddies the image. Obsidian, however, is chemically stable, its perfection locked in stone forever. Can you picture a shaman carefully tilting the dark disk, not just to see their own face, but to find the precise angle where the torchlight perfectly illuminates the vision they seek without creating a blinding hotspot? This was not guesswork, it was an applied science of light and perception. The fact that these ancient cultures valued and achieved such optical purity reveals a sophistication that goes far beyond simple craftsmanship, hinting at a deep, empirical understanding of how we see the world reflected back at us. The god Tezcatlipoca, whose name means smoking mirror, did not merely gaze into obsidian, he saw the entire world within its dark face. In Aztec belief, this powerful deity used his mirror to peer into the hearts of people, to witness events unfolding in distant lands, and to shape the very fate of the cosmos. This was no simple tool, it was an extension of his divine power, a concept that echoed throughout the human world. Folklorists point out that across cultures, the obsidian mirror was rarely just an object. It was a character in its own right, imbued with a life and purpose of its own. These legends consistently grant the mirrors one of three profound roles. They are truth tellers, revealing hidden knowledge or exposing deceit. They are gateways, offering passage to the spirit world or the realm of the gods, or they are traps, capable of capturing a soul or imprisoning a malevolent spirit. In Japanese folklore, polished stone mirrors, sometimes of obsidian, were known as kagami and were considered sacred objects that could house protective spirits called kami. They were not for personal use, but were enshrined in temples to ward off evil influences, their dark, non-reflective backs seen as a barrier against darkness. Far away in the Andes, mirrors were linked to lunar deities, their cool, reflective surface seen as a piece of the moon itself, a tool for shamans to draw upon its celestial power. These stories were not just entertainment, they were a powerful force that shaped society. If a ruler claimed to possess a mirror gifted by the gods, or one that revealed the future, it cemented their authority, making their rule seem divinely ordained. This was not mere superstition, it was a political tool, reinforcing a social hierarchy where the elite held a monopoly on communication with the supernatural. Centuries later, medieval European travelers to the Americas returned with tales of dark magic mirrors used by native priests, blending their own cultural fears and fascinations with half-understood realities. These accounts, filled with wonder and dread, spread through Europe, further cementing the mirror's legendary status. How did these powerful myths influence the hands of the artisans? Did a craftsperson, while polishing a disc for a king, intentionally carve a sacred symbol into the stone handle or the backing, believing it would channel a specific power into the glass? The line between spiritual belief and technological practice was invisible. The enduring power of these legends reveals something fundamental. The human imagination was captivated by the paradox of a dark surface that could hold light, and from that simple optical principle, we built entire worlds of meaning. A cache of obsidian mirrors gleams in the dirt of a Mexican tomb, untouched for over 3,000 years. These are not scattered fragments, but objects placed with clear intention, their dark surfaces still holding a ghostly sheen. Such moments are rare triumphs in archaeology, for a complete obsidian mirror is one of the most fragile treasures to survive from the ancient world. At sites like San Lorenzo Tenochtitlan, the heartland of the Olmec civilization, archaeologists have unearthed these artifacts in the graves of elites, often positioned near the head or chest of the individual. The context is everything. A mirror found alongside ceremonial regalia, jade beads, and stingray spines speaks of its role in shamanic ritual, a tool for a leader's journey into the afterlife. In contrast, a simpler mirror buried with a toolkit might indicate the grave of a master artisan, their life's work accompanying them into the next world. The excitement of such a discovery is always tempered by extreme caution. The moment an obsidian mirror is exposed to the air after millennia underground, it becomes incredibly vulnerable. Conservators must immediately stabilize the environment, protecting the glass from sudden temperature changes or humidity that could cause it to crack. Every speck of soil is carefully sifted for tiny pressure flakes that might have broken off, each one a clue to the final stages of its creation. This story of discovery spans the globe. At Çatalhöyük in Turkey, one of the world's earliest cities, archaeologists found perfectly circular obsidian mirrors dating back over 8,000 years. The level of polish on these Neolithic discs is astonishing, a testament to a polishing technology that was already highly refined at the dawn of civilization. Far to the west, in the British Isles, mirrors fashioned from polished jet, a black fossilized wood, have been found in Bronze Age burials. While not obsidian, they served the same profound purpose, their forms so similar to those in Turkey and Mexico that they hint at a universal human impulse to create and use these dark, reflective surfaces. Some of the most evocative finds are the Mesoamerican mirrors with intricately carved backs. A plain mirror was a powerful object, but one carved with the visage of a god like the Aztec Tezcatlipoca, or a sacred symbol, became a direct conduit to that deity. The carving was not merely decoration, it was a permanent invocation, binding the mirror's power to a specific spiritual force. Modern technology is now revealing where these objects were born. Recent LiDAR scans in Central America, which use lasers to map the ground through dense jungle canopy, have uncovered ancient quarry sites and workshop areas previously unknown. These scans show telltale mounds of obsidian debris, the waste products from centuries of mirror production, pointing archaeologists toward the very heart of the industry. What will future excavations at these newly discovered sites tell us? Could we uncover the burial of a master craftsperson, surrounded by their unique toolkit and a library of rough outs at various stages of completion? Might we find trade records or the remains of a workshop that served an entire region? Each intact mirror pulled from the earth is a frozen moment in time, a single piece of a vast puzzle that stretches across continents and millennia. Together, they are slowly allowing us to reassemble the lost narrative of how humanity's quest for a perfect reflection helped shape the ancient world. Hold a polished bronze mirror next to one of obsidian, and you are comparing two different philosophies of light. The bronze surface, when new, flashes with a brilliant golden shine, reflecting far more light than the dark obsidian ever could. It offers a bright, clear image of the world, but this clarity is fleeting. Bronze is a living metal, constantly reacting with the air. A greenish patina, a kind of metallic rust, slowly creeps across its face, clouding the reflection and scattering light into a hazy blur. To maintain its utility, a bronze mirror required constant, vigilant polishing, a never-ending battle against chemistry and time. Obsidian, in stark contrast, presents a much quieter reflection. It absorbs most of the light that touches it, giving back only a fraction, which creates a lower contrast, almost ghostly image. Yet this very quality was its strength. Once an artisan achieved that perfect polish, the volcanic glass was essentially inert. It would not tarnish, corrode, or change. Its perfection, born from months of labor, was eternal, locked in stone. Historians of technology point out that the choice between these materials was rarely just about function. It was a decision dictated by geography, resources, and deep-seated cultural beliefs. In ancient China, for example, skilled metalworkers cast magnificent bronze mirrors, often with intricate patterns on the back, their production supported by vast mining and smelting operations. Obsidian was an exotic rarity there, likely arriving via long-distance trade routes and carrying with it an aura of the foreign and the mysterious. Cultures with easy access to volcanic glass, like those in Mesoamerica or Anatolia, embraced its inherent properties. The lower reflectivity of obsidian was not a flaw, it was a feature. The dim, high-contrast image where your face seems to float in a void of darkness was perfectly suited for rituals of scrying and communion with the unseen. It created a visual experience that felt less like looking at the mundane world and more like peering through a window into another one. Why would a culture choose the immense difficulty of obsidian over the relative ease of metalworking? The answer lies in the value they placed on permanence and symbolism. A metal mirror was a tool for the living, a bright object for daily life that required upkeep. An obsidian mirror was a sacred object, a permanent gateway whose dark essence was as important as its reflective surface. It was not meant to show a bright, sunny day. It was crafted to reveal the shadows of truth hidden within the light. That first clear glimpse of your own face in obsidian must have been a moment of profound disorientation. For a prehistoric person whose only prior reflection was a wavering, unstable image in water, the obsidian mirror presented something entirely new, a stable, detailed portrait of the self held in the palm of the hand. This was not just about recognizing one's features, it was a fundamental confrontation with identity. Psychologists who study mirror self-recognition suggest that this constant, accessible feedback loop can catalyze a more complex sense of self. You are not just a body acting in the world, you are an entity that can be observed, studied, and ultimately judged. This new awareness likely rippled through every aspect of ancient social life. For the first time, individuals could consciously manage their appearance, adjusting hair, paint, or ornaments to conform to social roles or to project a specific identity. A warrior could see the face he presented before battle. A leader could practice the expressions of authority. This ability to self-scrutinize would have reinforced social hierarchies, making status and role something visible and performative. Mirrors almost certainly became integral to rites of passage. Can you envision an adolescent's initiation, where after a long ritual, they are finally allowed to gaze into the dark glass, seeing not a child, but the face of an adult member of the community staring back? This transformative moment would cement their new social identity. Shamans used this tool to explore the very boundaries of consciousness, staring into the void for hours to induce trance states, seeking visions where their own reflection would morph into the face of a spirit animal or ancestor. Yet this new power carried a shadow. Alongside the potential for heightened self-awareness came the risk of vanity, an obsessive focus on the external self. More deeply, many cultures harbored a primal fear that the reflection was not just an image, but the soul itself. Myths from across the globe warn of mirrors capturing or stealing one's life force, which is why they were often covered during times of vulnerability, like sleep or death. We see the disruptive power of this new technology in ethnographic accounts from the Amazon. When mirrors were first introduced by outsiders to tribes who had never seen them, the effect was revolutionary. Personal adornment, once done by feel or through the feedback of others, became a private, obsessive act. the concept of the individual self was suddenly amplified, sometimes at the expense of communal identity. This ancient psychological shift echoes in our own lives every single day. How does the face you see in the mirror each morning shape your confidence, your anxieties, your very sense of who you are? That simple act of looking, pioneered by an artisan polishing volcanic glass 10,000 years ago, connects us directly to the moment humanity first truly saw itself. Buried for centuries in a dry, sandy tomb, an obsidian mirror awaits its rediscovery. Its surface, while flawless upon interment, now bears the faintest milky sheen, a ghostly veil formed over millennia. This slow transformation is the story of preservation battling degradation, a silent war between the material's inherent stability and the relentless forces of time. Obsidian's greatest strength is its chemical inertness. Unlike metals that corrode or organic materials that rot, this volcanic glass is largely immune to the chemical attacks of its environment. It does not rust, tarnish, or dissolve, which is why the deepest polish, once achieved, can persist for 10,000 years. Conservators who handle these artifacts explain that the real enemies are physical and environmental. A single point of impact can spiderweb the entire disk, and even gentle abrasion from shifting soils can cloud that perfect finish with a network of microscopic scratches. The conditions of burial are everything. A sealed tomb in the arid Egyptian desert with consistent low humidity and stable temperatures creates a near-perfect time capsule. Mirrors from such contexts emerge looking as if they were polished yesterday, their black depths still holding a liquid shine. In contrast, a waterlogged burial in the acidic soils of a Southeast Asian jungle presents a far harsher reality. Constant moisture can slowly leach minerals from the glass, while pressing roots and freezing thawing cycles exert immense physical stress, often leading to fractures along hidden fault lines. One of the most fascinating forms of degradation is a process called devitrification. Over thousands of years, the non-crystalline structure of the glass slowly, atom by atom, begins to reorganize into tiny crystals. This turns the once clear black glass cloudy and white, like a fine frost has formed inside the stone itself. This process is accelerated by heat and moisture, which is why the most pristine mirrors are always found in the coolest, driest graves. When archaeologists uncover one of these treasures, the conservation begins immediately. They use soft brushes to remove loose dirt, avoiding any liquid or chemical cleaners that could seep into microscopic fractures. The mirrors are then housed in climate-controlled cases that replicate their ideal burial environment, maintaining a constant temperature and humidity to halt any further devitrification in its tracks. The condition of a mirror tells its own story. One found with its edges worn smooth from handling suggests it was a daily ritual object passed through many hands. Another, with a single catastrophic impact fracture, might have been a ceremonial item broken upon its owner's death to release its spirit. A perfectly preserved mirror, placed carefully on a ruler's chest, speaks of an object so revered it was protected even in the afterlife. What does the faint patina on an otherwise perfect surface truly represent? It is not a flaw, but a badge of honor, a map of its long sleep in the earth, and a final, silent testament to the enduring power of human creation. Even the most skilled modern flintknapper, armed with a complete understanding of the basic process, often finds their replica falling short of the ancient originals. The surfaces of some prehistoric mirrors possess a uniformity, a deep, liquid gloss that seems to defy the limitations of hand-held sandstones and leather pads. This gap in achievement has led scholars to propose a tantalizing idea that we may have lost the final, most sophisticated chapters of their technical manual. Perhaps these master artisans possessed advanced methods that left no trace in the archaeological record, secrets that died with them. Historians of technology point to the potential of compound abrasives. Instead of using just one type of sand, a craftsperson might have created a complex paste, mixing coarse crushed quartz with a finer powder from crushed shells or certain clays, and finishing with an ultrafine polish made from ash or even dried, powdered leaves. This graduated slurry would have systematically erased the scratches of the previous stage far more efficiently than any single abrasive could. Another compelling hypothesis involves organic polishes. Imagine a paste made from animal fats, beeswax, and the juices of specific plants. Such a mixture could have acted as both a lubricant and a final stage chemical polish, filling the tiniest microscopic pores in the obsidian to create an even smoother surface that reflected light with exceptional clarity. Since these organic materials decompose completely, we may never find direct proof of their use. The most debated theory involves mechanical aids. Could they have developed a simple rotary device? A spindle turned by a bowstring, similar to a fire drill, might have spun a leather-covered obsidian disc against a stationary abrasive stone. This would have generated a consistent, circular polishing motion impossible to achieve by hand, explaining the perfect radial symmetry and flawless finish on some examples. This idea finds echoes in other ancient mysteries, like the creation of perfectly symmetrical stone vessels in Old Kingdom Egypt, where similar questions about lost technology persist. How many of these techniques were guarded oral traditions, passed in whispers from master to apprentice, ensuring their value and their eventual disappearance? The enigma of these lost techniques does not diminish their achievement, but rather deepens the allure of every obsidian mirror, each one a silent keeper of forgotten arts. A museum curator stands before a display case, holding an obsidian mirror that feels far heavier than its physical weight. Her decision is not merely about lighting or angle, but about responsibility. How does she present this sacred object to a curious public without stripping it of its spiritual essence? This is the central ethical dilemma now facing archaeology. For generations, institutions collected such artifacts as simple curiosities or art objects, often divorced from their profound cultural context. Today, the conversation has shifted dramatically toward ethical stewardship, demanding we ask not just what an object is, but what it means to the people whose ancestors created it. Ethicists in the field stress that collaboration is the cornerstone of this new approach. It is no longer enough for a Western academic to define an artifact's significance alone. The most meaningful interpretations arise from partnerships with descendant communities, the living cultures who hold traditional knowledge about these objects. A mirror is not just a polished stone, it is a potential portal, a ritual tool, a piece of a living heritage. When a museum acquires such an item, especially through the colonial collecting practices of the past, it inherits a moral obligation. One of the most powerful expressions of this new ethic is repatriation, the process of returning culturally significant objects to their communities of origin. This is not a loss for museums, but an act of restorative justice. For example, many institutions are now working with Native American tribes under the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act to return not just human remains, but sacred objects like mirrors. In one notable case, a museum collaborated with Hopi cultural advisors to reinterpret an entire collection of ritual items. The Hopi representatives shared oral histories that explained the mirror's role in ceremonies, stories that no archaeological report could ever capture. This collaboration transformed the display from a static exhibit into a dynamic narrative, honoring the object's true purpose. Scientific analysis presents another ethical tightrope. Destructive testing, which involves taking a small sample to analyze its chemical composition, can provide invaluable data about trade routes, but drilling into a sacred object is a violent act, a desecration from the perspective of the community that venerates it. The solution lies in increasingly sophisticated non-invasive technologies. Techniques like portable X-ray fluorescence can read the obsidian's chemical signature without ever touching the surface, while high-resolution CT scanning can peer inside to study its internal structure, all without causing harm. How do we balance our thirst for knowledge with our duty of respect? The answer increasingly lies in shared authority. This means involving community members in every step, from deciding what research is permissible to co-authoring the labels that museum visitors will read. It acknowledges that the most complete understanding of an obsidian mirror comes from weaving together scientific data with spiritual tradition. The goal is no longer just to display an artifact, but to honor the continuum of life and belief it represents, ensuring that the silent black glass speaks not only of the past, but for the people whose identity it still helps define. A Renaissance inventor might never have held an obsidian mirror, yet the principles it embodied were quietly revolutionizing his world. The ancient mastery of creating a perfectly flat, reflective surface did not vanish with the cultures that perfected it. Instead, this hard-won knowledge of optics and polishing seeped into the bedrock of later technologies, influencing everything from scientific instruments to the very way we see the universe. Historians of science suggest that while metal mirrors became the common household object, the deeper understanding of light and reflection, first explored with volcanic glass, provided a critical foundation. The key was the transfer of technique. Medieval lapidaries, the craftsmen who cut and polished precious stones, were the inheritors of this ancient wisdom. Their workshops used graduated abrasives starting with coarse emery and finishing with fine diamond dust, in a process that directly mirrored the step-by-step refinement used on obsidian thousands of years earlier. These methods, perfected for gems, were then adapted for a new and revolutionary object, the glass lens. The polishing of clear quartz and glass for magnifying lenses, and eventually for telescopes and microscopes, relied on this very same tactile knowledge of achieving a flawless, transparent surface. We find hints of this lineage in alchemical texts, where obsidian is still mentioned as a potent material for scrying, a lingering echo of its sacred past even as its physical properties informed a more empirical age. During the Islamic Golden Age, scholars like Al-Hazan wrote extensively on the laws of reflection and refraction, conducting experiments that would form the basis of modern optics. While he used glass and metal, his work was built upon centuries of observation, some of which undoubtedly began with someone staring into a polished black disk. The line from a shaman's ritual tool to an astronomer's telescope is not a straight one, but it is a continuous thread. How many other ancient breakthroughs, born from ritual and art, secretly paved the way for the instruments of modern science? The legacy of the obsidian mirror is not merely in the objects themselves, but in the perpetual human drive to manipulate light, a quest that began with stone and now reaches for the stars. A modern artisan's mallet strikes a nodule of black glass, releasing a sharp crack that echoes across 10,000 years. In studios from Oaxaca to Oregon, a quiet revival is underway as artists and spiritual seekers rediscover the profound power of the obsidian mirror. These contemporary creators are not simply making replicas, they are resurrecting a lineage, blending ancestral techniques with a modern yearning for tangible connection. The mirrors they produce are coveted for a trinity of values: their stark, minimalist beauty, their deep historical resonance, and their perceived metaphysical properties. Many believe these dark surfaces act as protective shields, absorbing negative energy in practices like feng shui and meditation, where they serve as focal points for introspection, far removed from the distractions of a digital screen. Expert crafters who dedicate themselves to this art often make a conscious choice. They reject the speed of power tools in favor of the slow, deliberate rhythm of traditional methods. A master using an antler billet and sandstone polisher explains that the authentic process is a form of meditation in itself, a way to physically honor the immense patience and skill of the original artisans. This hands-on approach creates a unique bond between the maker and the object, embedding the mirror with an intention that no machine can replicate. Workshops have sprung up where participants can spend a week learning the basics of flintknapping and polishing, their hands becoming raw as they experience firsthand the immense labor behind every flawless surface. The final result is more than a simple object. It is a personal artifact of a forgotten skill. This revival, however, walks a delicate ethical line. Sourcing the raw material presents a significant challenge, as many of the richest obsidian quarries are now protected archaeological sites or hold deep cultural significance for indigenous communities. Responsible crafters go to great lengths to obtain their obsidian from legal, commercial quarries or from reclaimed material, ensuring their art does not contribute to the looting of cultural heritage. There is a growing movement to directly support indigenous artisans who have maintained a living connection to this tradition, ensuring that the cultural knowledge and economic benefits remain within their communities. How do these modern interpretations keep ancient traditions alive? They do so by transforming a static artifact in a museum case into a living, breathing practice. The fascination is no longer just with the mirror as an end product, but with the entire journey of its creation, a timeless appeal that continues to reflect our endless search for meaning in the meeting of darkness and light. The debate over a mirror's true purpose can grow surprisingly heated among experts. In a university conference hall, one archaeologist projects an image of a perfectly circular obsidian disc, arguing it was an astronomical tool for tracking celestial events. Across the table, a colleague counters that its burial in a shaman's grave proves it was solely a ritual object for communicating with ancestors. This fundamental divide between the practical and the spiritual remains one of the field's greatest unresolved puzzles. Leading researchers are deeply split. Some, like Dr. Elena Vargas, contend these mirrors were primarily status symbols, their impossible perfection demonstrating a ruler's access to esoteric knowledge and rare materials. For her, the immense labor involved was about political theater, a display of power meant to awe and control. Conversely, Dr. Kenji Tanaka presents a compelling case for practical application. He points to ethnographic accounts of indigenous groups using polished stones to start fires by focusing sunlight, and suggests larger obsidian mirrors could have been used as efficient signaling devices over vast distances, or as concentrated light sources for illuminating the dark interiors of temples and caves. The most speculative debates swirl around the possibility of lost optical technology. Could the most skilled artisans have polished obsidian to a specific curvature, accidentally or intentionally creating a simple lens capable of magnification? A few anomalous artifacts fuel this theory, like the rare, unusually thick mirrors with a slight convex shape discovered in Anatolia. Their form doesn't fit the standard profile, and their depth could have allowed for a primitive focusing of light. Recent scientific analyses have only deepened the mystery. Reflectance spectroscopy, which measures how light bounces off a surface at a microscopic level, has been used on mirrors from Teotihuacan. The results were puzzling. Some surfaces show a uniform polish consistent with hand finishing, while others have a strange, almost glass-like consistency in their reflectance signature, hinting at a final treatment with an unknown organic paste or polishing agent that has completely vanished over time. Then there are the truly enigmatic pieces, the ones that defy categorization. A mirror found in a Mayan cache had a small, drilled hole near its edge, as if it was meant to be suspended or attached to something else, perhaps a staff or a headdress. Another, from a site in Oman, is not a disc at all, but a thin, rectangular plaque of polished obsidian, a shape that seems deliberately designed for a function we can no longer comprehend. So, where does the truth lie? Were these objects multi-tools of the ancient world, serving a king by day as a symbol of power, a priest by night as a portal to the gods, and a craftsperson at dawn as a means to harness the sun? The evidence is fragmented, open to interpretation. The ongoing debates are not a sign of failure, but a testament to the object's profound complexity, ensuring that the story of the obsidian mirror is never truly finished. These ancient mirrors hold a final, unifying secret. Their story is not merely one of forgotten techniques, but a powerful testament to a prehistoric mastery of both material and meaning that stands equal to our modern ingenuity. We have followed the journey from a volcanic shard to a sacred portal, witnessing the percussive dance of flaking, the patient pressure of refinement, and the rhythmic grind of polishing that coaxed a flawless surface from brittle glass. We have seen these dark discs become eyes to the spirit world, tools for the first deep encounters with the self, and precious tokens traveling vast trade routes that connected continents. The specialized artisans, the powerful myths, the sheer endurance required, all point to a universal human drive to shape our world and peer into its hidden layers. While debates over their precise uses continue and new discoveries will always reshape our understanding, each finding brings us closer to a genuine appreciation for the creativity and profound patience that defined our ancestors. Let this exploration be a lens itself, focusing your gaze on the depth hidden in seemingly simple objects. The next time you see your own reflection, pause for a moment. Look beyond the surface, and you might just glimpse the 10,000-year-old echo of an ancient artisan's persistence, a quiet reminder that true perfection is often found not in speed, but in the dedicated human hand. What part of the obsidian secret resonated most deeply with you? Share your reflections in the comments below and subscribe for more journeys into the world's great historical mysteries. Carry this story with you, a testament to the enduring power of human